It's like New Thought gospel, you know? Oh, we're going to talk about best day ever. This was my cocktail napkin on my Delta flight. On every Delta napkin, on every flight, thousands of people are reading best day ever. Thank you, Delta. Yeah, so there's some other things that I want to share. Science of Mind and Creative Thought November's out. So if you're into reading these, my article in Creative Thought is about the end of cancer. If you weren't here when I talked about that, you might want to read that. Yay. Other things. The Byro family had a wedding. Congratulations. Thank you, my family. That's so lovely. Happy birthday, Margaret, my sister-in-law. Today's your birthday. Anybody else's birthday today? Okay, you're it, Margaret. Happy birthday. That's great. It's good to be home. Last couple of times we've chatted, we used the Bible. We're not doing Bibles today. I figured there were some of you out there. Today we're going to do fundamental, basic, starter, New Thought. And I want to bring you some of the teachers that maybe you've heard of and maybe you haven't, and hear how this works. We're going to start right at the beginning. Everybody have a program? Does the program still say on it, becoming ever more aware of our oneness of spirit? Yes. Okay, so that's still important to us, because it says it on every program we put out, that is our purpose, to become ever more aware of our oneness of spirit, to know who we are at the level of our oneness. Now, oneness is this tricky thing, because we live in a physical universe that has this constant aspect of duality. It has the you and the me, and us and the them, the it and the not it, the up and the down, and all those ideas of separation, of being separate. So we live in a world that keeps barraging us with this idea of separateness. But that's not what we teach here. And what I want to do is explore that a bit with you this morning, and then share how we apply that to our lives. Because in a world that is basically, all of us acting separately and looking separately and functioning what appears to be separately, it's hard to get this idea and to really be in it. I mean, we come here and we get all holy and then we go out in the world and somebody says something or somebody does something, we go, oh, life is so terrible. Right? I mean, we all do it. We all fall into that trap. And, the more times you go around the circle, the more times you get it at a higher level, and you have to kind of resolve it at a higher level. But all of us are working on this. So none of us are out of that game. We wouldn't be on planet Earth if we had this one completely figured out. So let's play with it a bit this morning. I want to start with a teacher that comes up in classes, but I don't know his name ever gets brought up in here. And his name is Ralph Waldo Trine. Anybody know? Oh, no, I'm starting ahead of myself. Let's do this first. This is where it starts in our philosophy. We have a declaration of principles. Some of you know it as what we believe. And this is what it says right at the beginning. Ernest Holmes, when asked, what is it we believe? What is it he believed? This is what he said. He said, we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. So there's this oneness that exists because there is this divine presence. And I love the end of this where he says, it is in and through everything, but it's not absorbed by it, meaning that it doesn't begin and end at any point. It is a constant. This oneness is everywhere, in everything, in all of us, and through all of us. It is all of us. And that's the basic premise on which the science of mind is based, is that that's where we start. So what do you do with that? Thank you. That was good. Now we're going to look at a guy named Trine. So you're going to flip through to, there you go. Okay, this is him. Born right after the Civil War, died in the 1980s, lived a nice long life. Had an interesting life. He was not only a bit of a philosopher and a mystic, but he was a businessman. And I'm sure a bit of a politician too, so I got a little, affinity with this guy. He was the president of the American Humane Society in the early part of the century, and he was also involved in starting the whole movement of preventing cruelty to animals. So he had, real compassion around that in his life. Apparently he saw the divine in animals as well. Maybe we should look at that. But this is a quote from Trine that is really powerful, and I wanted to share it with you. There is nothing that will more quickly and more completely bring a person into harmony with the laws under which he lives than this vital realization of the oneness of the infinite. The oneness of the infinite. It's where we start. When we do our treatment work, we start with that idea of the infinite. We start with the idea that there's only one thing going on. You hear it around here ad nauseum. Great, to get the idea that God has no beginning and no end, no corners, no stop points, that it's all that divine presence. And let's go ahead and do this one. God is a terrible word. Because all of us grew up in that thing where God was this being that had some control over us. It's not a good word to use. But everybody uses it. I don't know how to get away. When I went to Europe recently, about a month ago, I was told, with no uncertain terms, don't use that word. Don't say it out loud. One of my colleagues interpreted that to mean that he should teach the people about the word God. Can you imagine how that went? Crash and burn. Okay, so it's not a great word, but everybody uses it. In this case, it's not in this quote, which I really like. The divine presence that we're talking about is not a person. It's not a place. It's not a thing. It's everything. It's beyond everything. Everything is contained within it. And that means that you are and I am. Now we have this multiplicity that goes on, but if we can realize that oneness in every situation of our lives, we can use it in a powerful way to make a difference. And that's where we're headed with this. So that's Trine. What do we got next? Okay, back to that. Let's see where I want to go with this. I've got a couple of Holmes quotes that I want to share with you, and I found a picture of Holmes doing one of his radio broadcasts, and that's going to come up right here. And he obviously believed this. Trine was one of his teachers, and really all of the great thinkers come to this point of oneness. Let's see what Holmes said about it in The Science of Mind. When we practice oneness, there can be no burden in our lives. Any sense of opposition cannot coexist with a consciousness that perceives unity. That's a great idea. How are we doing on this? Any sense of opposition cannot coexist with a consciousness that perceives unity. This is not as hard as it seems. What this means is that when we find ourselves in a conflict, something against us, it appears that it's against us, we have to remember this. We have to move back to this. Because the perception is that someone's yelling at us, someone's making us wrong, someone's flipping us off in another car. But the idea is that if oneness is real, then we must know that there's nothing against us. And with a consciousness of unity, that is oneness, we have to realize we don't have opposition. That the opposition is as much an illusion as anything in life. But if we get hooked, we get hooked. Crow dog at the fire. And you can't hook me. There was this cowboy from Florida. Anytime somebody would say something that had any drama to it at all, when we were at Vision Quest, he would say, you can't hook me. So he was consciously being aware that life was out there with barbs on it, wanting to cook and call us into the drama. And we all get hooked. At some time or another, we all get hooked. But the idea is the way out, the doorway out, is to remember that there's only one thing going on, and it's God. One thing going on, it's that divine presence. That's who we are. And that illusion of something against us cannot prevail over us if we remember who we are. Let's look at this other quote by Holmes. No false thing can enter into my life while you are... No false thing can enter into your life while you are recognizing the oneness of infinite spirit. That pretty much says it. You can't have anything false show up if you recognize that it's all God. If you recognize that it's all divine, no matter what it looks like, no matter how ugly you may want to perceive it, it's still God. So what you have to do, what life is about, and what has become about for me, is interpreting everything as God. How do I see this situation as the divine presence? This thing that's just bugging the doo-doo out of me. How do I see it as divine? I can say that. If she can say screwed, I can say doo-doo. Yes. Life is for us. It's not against us. And when it looks like it's against us, it's our job to interpret the divine presence in that moment. Not really to fake it. It's not about faking it. It's about moving beyond the surface of it into something greater. I love the idea that life calls us to be who we've come here to be. That's our relationship with all of life, is it's calling us to be who we've come here to be. So when we're not being who we've come here to be, life gives us something to work on. Now, I prefer to be in the driver's seat in these situations and be creating something, be on the edge of being who I want here to be, because if I'm not, life will give me other things, other reflections of my consciousness that are not as pleasant, like disease or conflict or upset or something like that to work on, which then I need to rise above. So the idea is, if we are proactive in our lives, if we are working on our lives and we are remembering who we are, and when we fall into that little trap in that moment that says that somehow life is against us, that something is wrong here, that we can reevaluate it quickly and go back to that place of knowing the truth. That's our work. And from that place of knowing the truth, now we can be who we've come here to be. And we can get done what we've come here to do. And we can make the difference in the world that is ours to make. Otherwise, we're constantly in battle. And when we're in battle with anything, we're in separateness. And when we're in separation and separateness, we cannot achieve who we've come here to be. It doesn't work. You can go to battle all you want. It may even look like you won, but you didn't. Not if you don't know who you are. Not if you don't recognize that oneness in every step, in every circumstance of your life. Okay. I don't know why I put these breaks in. They're not working. The next one is the next guy I want to introduce you to. Do you know who this guy is, Christy? I do. I think you may be teaching from one of his books right now in your Wednesday night class, or Tuesday. Two of his books on Wednesday night. Okay, this guy was not a religious scientist. He actually coexisted with religious science. His name is Joel Goldsmith. He grew up in New York City. He grew up as a secular Jew. He was not religious, but he had some interesting experiences in his life. When he was in his early 20s, his father, who had traveled to Europe, his father was a businessman. He traveled to England, and he became very ill. So his family got word that they needed to come and collect his body. He wasn't dead yet, but they came making plans. And what happened was his father happened upon a Christian Science practitioner. And had a complete healing from whatever it was that was calling him dead. And he just came home on his own. So Joel heard about this and thought that was very interesting. And in his life, he also traveled to Europe and got pneumonia. Was very sick. Guess who showed up? A Christian Science practitioner. And he was healed of his pneumonia through his work with this practitioner. And, I know we're not Christian scientists, but I guarantee you the work of a Christian Science practitioner and the work of a religious science practitioner are not that different, especially the rest of the world. We have our little nuances, but it's not that different. So the work was being done. So you can imagine what Joel did when he came back to the United States. He joined the Christian Science Church. And that lasted for a while until he figured out he couldn't really speak on his own. So at that point he left and he started a practice. He was in Boston, then he was in California, and he was teaching these teachings that we teach. On his own path, he actually started this thing called the Infinite Way and started teaching people from that perspective, which is not different than what we teach. It was just that he wasn't really following somebody else's teaching as much as discovering his own. And truth is truth is truth, and Goldsmith found it. So a lot of us nowadays, we call on the teachings of Joel Goldsmith, as Christy's doing on Wednesday nights. And if you want to hear more about him, you're going to hear more about him now, because I'm going to give you one heck of a long quote. It's a section out of a book he wrote on the art of meditation. And it speaks to this idea of oneness so clearly, I'm going to give it all to you in segments so that we can digest it. See what I meant? All right, I'm going to read it. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. Just let it wash over you. From a human standpoint, satisfactory relationships between groups of people and between individuals depend upon the quality of communication. All too frequently, attempts at communication result in misunderstanding. Often these unhappy effects are due to the prevalent belief that there are many minds and diverse interests, that they can get something from somebody, that we can get something from somebody, or that somebody may take something from us. Have you all lived in a world that functioned like that, where you thought somebody could take something from you? Or that you really had to get something from someone to have it, whether it was something physical or even an idea? This is a limited thought. This is a thought that exists in a world that's dualistic. Because the truth is that if the infinite dwells at the point of us, then we already have everything that we need. But the chattering in our mind keeps us from recognizing that. We don't stop long enough. This is why it's in a book about meditation. We don't stop long enough to let the answer be there. We don't stop long enough to let it unfold from within us, let it reveal itself from within us. Not separate from us, actually as part of who we are. Isn't that a lovely idea that it's all there? Most of us, me included, don't give it a chance to show up. We suddenly find a problem, and think this is the thing that we have to deal with. And often that has nothing to do with where we're going. Often I find in life, when it looks like somebody is going to take something from me, but I'm being called to wake up and see that there's something wonderful for me to do, for me to know, for me to be. And that if I look at it from that perspective, I get an entirely different take on the circumstance. So the quote begins here. Let's see what the next part of it is. The infinite way, which was Joel's work, however, approaches this problem from an entirely different point of view. Our secret lies in a new concept of human relations. Actually, it's an ancient concept. It is a relationship based on oneness, springing from a conviction that we are not being separate and apart from one another, but that our oneness with God constitutes our oneness with one another. We are not separate. Yes, we have these thoughts. We have these actions. We have this body that moves out and does things. But we are not separate from one another. We are not individual. We are individualizations of the one. But that means that we are deeply interconnected. That everything that I say to you, everything that you say to me, is compatible, even when it doesn't seem so. Is divinely guided, even when it seems like it isn't what we want to hear. It isn't what we want to see. There's something in it, an element of it that is so clearly the divine, that is guiding and directing us from within to do what we've come to do and to be who we've come to be. Let's take the next part. Only two more parts. God is individual mind. The mind of God in me addresses the mind of God in you. The one infinite intelligence acting through me communicates with the one infinite intelligence acting through you. One intelligence speaks. One intelligence hears. We are one. We are in agreement. Not because we agree with each other, but because God agrees with itself. God is the only mind. So in this one mind, there can be no misunderstandings. No misunderstandings? Let's go back to the first thought he had. The problem in human experience is communication. But at the point of mind that is God, which is all, there is no misunderstanding. We're on a perfect path. We're doing exactly what we need to do. There's nothing more for us to find out other than that which is real within us right now. Because whatever that is, we're ready for it. And again, it's whether it's something we like or something we deeply dislike, it doesn't matter. It's the presence of the divine. It's that one thing that's going on. It is not wrong. It is not bad. You have not made a mistake, nor has anyone else. There's something there. The infinite presence dwells in all of this, all the time. And the final part of this quote. God speaks unto God. Life reveals itself unto life. Soul speaks unto soul. I am but an instrument through which infinite intelligence and divine love are being revealed to the infinite intelligence and divine love of those who come within my range of consciousness. In that flow of love, from you to me and from me to you, there is no separation. I know. Let that work on you. There's really something amazing there. And what it tells me is that when I think things aren't going so well, they're going just fine. And that all I have to do is shift my sense of it all. And it shifts with me. The circumstances shift with me. We're all in our perfect place doing exactly what we need to do. Why not go ahead and do it with some joy? Why not go ahead and do it with an open heart? And when it seems hard, when it seems impossible, it's not. It's the perfect next step. I had a conversation with a colleague a few weeks ago. And I thought I had an idea all figured out. I'm not going to get into the details right now. Maybe someday. I thought I had this thing all figured out, packaged up real nice and neat. This is what's going to happen. And this person lovingly and with great expert opinion on the matter told me that what I had planned was not going to work. And gave me some pointers on how to reframe it. And I called Barbara and I said, I got nothing. I got nothing. I kind of moped around the rest of the day. I went to bed in a hotel that night. I woke up the next morning and it was like a download happened in me. And all this information came and all these ideas came. And it was so clear. It was freaky clear. Only because I believed that I was willing to find an answer to what I was looking for. It's right here. It's right now. You can have it all. The only thing that stops you is your limited thought that it's not. The only thing that stops you is some sense that we're separate. We're not. We are here dancing with the beloved. It is us. Isn't that wonderful? So I know that the presence is right here and right now. It is you. It is me. We are all we've ever needed. And all we'll ever receive is right here, right now. All we have to do is open to the divine and let it be. It's really that easy, if you'll just let it be. So on your journey of life, in all the things that you face, all the troubles that seem to be before you, I want you to know it's all God. Let it be, and all is well. And so it is.